Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for tuning into Kodo's Heartbeat Radio. This episode will be hosted by myself, Taiyo Onoda, and
Me, Akimoto.
all right. So, this is our very first English episode.
Yes.
Thank you very much, international audience, for waiting for us. We would like to continue this series in the future as well. So, if you have any comments, questions, and feedback, yes, please let us know in the questionnaire form that we will have attached to this link.
And we are bringing this episode from our very home Sado Island. We've just escaped a very harsh winter.
We had lots of snow this year.
Yeah, but we're well into spring now.
Well into spring.
The weather has been very beautiful, and
Nice
the
and
cherry
warm.
blossoms have been blooming. So it's been very lovely. Speaking of spring,
Yes, speaking of spring in Japan, it means that it's the beginning of the financial year, which means that school starts in April. And we have just accepted our first year apprentices, I'm sorry.
yes, the freshmen are here,
Yes, very fresh,
full of energy.
full of energy and eager to learn.
Yes, exactly. Do you remember being a first-year apprentice?
Kind of, yeah. I remember being nervous and excited just as they were. But I guess we can cover that more later on in this episode.
Sure. Yep.
So, shall we get started?
Let's begin.
Please enjoy
Heartbeat Radio.
Once again, thank you very much for tuning in to Kodo's Heartbeat Radio. This episode will be hosted by myself, Taiyo Onoda, a third-year performing member of Kodo, and
Me, Akimoto, one of the staff members for Kodo Cultural Foundation and also their Earth Celebration Committee.
thank you very much. So, because this is our very first English episode, and I'm sure some of our audience doesn't exactly know who we are yet, we can start off this episode with some introductions.
Sure. Do you want to go first?
Yep. All right. So my name, once again, is Taiyo Onoda, and I was born and raised in San Francisco. And I started taiko there in 2001 with
Right.
San Francisco Taiko Dojo. And San Francisco Taiko Dojo is recognized as the oldest taiko team in the United States.
Yes.
And yeah, I was lucky enough to be able to join them and stick with them for a while. And I wasn't really thinking about making a taiko a profession.
Oh, okay.
So I went into college at University of California, Davis to study food science.
Food science.
Yes, and
That's
Japanese.
interesting. It's very different to taiko.
Very different, yes, but a fun endeavor. And I joined their collegiate taiko team in Davis named Bakuhatsu Taiko-dan.
Bakuhatsu Taiko-dan. Wow, that's an impactful name.
Yes, Bakuhatsu, by the way, means explosion in
Yeah.
Japanese. And as the name states, we were a very energetic team.
I can only imagine.
And through the activities in the collegiate taiko, I met a Kodo staff named Yui.
Yes. Yui.
And she was the one that introduced me to the apprentice program.
Right.
And she told me if I wanted to join Kodo, then I would have to go through the 2-year program. And upon contemplating for maybe about 2 or 3 years, I decided after graduating college to knock on their door and join the apprenticeship.
Wow.
And that was in 2016, I believe.
You're one of the older members, I guess, for the apprentice.
Yes, I was the second oldest actually, because we also had a Norwegian.
Yes.
Yes, a Norwegian apprentice who was 2 years older than me,
Okay.
and she studied taiko in the States as well, in Florida at Disney World. Actually.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was nice to have someone with an international background in my cohort, so that we, both shared the pain and the hardships
Yep.
of the apprenticeship. But I was lucky enough to become a junior member and also make the cut and become an official member in 2019. And here I am, a third-year performing member.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Okay, I guess that's enough about me. So how about you?
Myself. So again, my name is Ami Akimoto. I was actually born in the US. So same city as Taiyo, San Francisco. And it happens that we were born in the same hospital.
The same hospital. Yeah, that was a weird coincidence that we found out.
Yeah. But different to Taiyo, I was actually raised in Australia. So hence my accent is not very American-like. But so I was raised in Australia for most of my life. I went to university. I studied engineering. Engineering. I became an engineer and worked at a company for a while. But I did taiko as a hobby throughout high school and throughout my career too. So I wanted to make a change in my life. Career change, yeah. So I wanted to make taiko a career.
Was that because taiko was, something that really struck you suddenly, or?
Well, I always liked watching or listening to taiko because of the energy it gives you. But I also liked playing taiko with friends and my group, I guess.
Of course,
and performing as well. You get a lot of energy from the audience. So that aspect of it, I think I loved. And I wanted to do more with my skill set and see where that takes me. So I made the jump to Sado Island and I joined a program called Casa Mix.
Casa Mix,
yes.
yes.
Yeah, which is where a lot of taiko players from around the world or taiko lovers from around the world, they gather on Sado Island and they spend time together, they network, they practice together, and we actually spend time at the Apprentice Center.
I remember being a first year when a different batch of Casa Mix members came to visit the Apprentice Center, and it was a nice experience for me and also for the other international cohort, because it was a time that the Apprentice Center becomes this condensed international mosh pit of culture, basically.
That's true. It's like an exchange.
Exactly, a cultural exchange. Yeah. And it was a good way for the apprentices to see beyond the things that we are working on right in front of you. You know, there's this world outside of the Apprentice Center that we want to reach. So it was a good way to re-evaluate my dreams, I guess, and my goals to become.
It opens your eyes as well, doesn't it?
For sure.
Yeah.
It was a great experience.
Yeah. So that's where I met Yui, actually. So that's what we have in common. Yui and Atsushi, I met there. And they mentioned working for Kodo. And that's how I made the connection there. And I joined the Kodo Cultural Foundation. Which, those who are not familiar, we do a lot of non-profit activities such as workshops. We run the Apprentice Center. And recently, we've just started a program or a project, Kodo Taiko School, which Taiyo is very familiar with.
Yes, I am one of the instructors for the Kodo Taiko School. We closed the applications for the 0 cohorts.
Yes.
But we will be asking for the first cohorts soon, I believe. So please stay tuned for the release, and we'll make sure to let you guys know
the details.
Yes.
That's enough about me.
All right. I guess we'll move right on into the next segment then. So today's Kodo number. This is Ami's very first appearance for Kodo Heartbeat Radio. So would you like to choose a song for us today?
Yes. So today I have chosen a piece called Okesa.
Okesa, yes.
Which is the encore piece from the One Earth Tour Legacy performance.
All right. So please enjoy. again, you are listening to Okesa, the encore piece for One Earth Tour Legacy. So, why did you choose this song?
So I love many Kodo pieces, but this one in particular has been special for me. The reason being is that we toured Legacy in Europe last year.
Yes.
And that was in the midst of when COVID-19 was spreading.
I remember listening to all the news that comes from Europe while I was on the island on Sado. And I heard about how, say, Germany was locking down.
Yes,
and
Italy was locking down. A lot of countries were locking down.
And I remember like the members were basically quarantined in France for a while.
Yes, yeah. So the tour was, it was cut short, unfortunately. But during the second half of the tour, things got uncertain. We weren't sure if we were performing the next day. So every performance that we were able to do, the weight of it just got heavier and heavier. But we were filled with gratitude when we actually were able to go to the venues. And Liverpool was actually our last performance for the tour. And during that performance, I remember myself, Mio, who was one of the other tour managers, and Yasmin, who was one of our agents. We were all at the back of the venue alongside Martin, who was our technical director. We were in tears, dancing, just in relief that we made it this far. And yeah, so during the encore piece, it was just very emotional. And yeah, that's why this piece holds a special place in my heart, I guess.
I remember that the members have told me about this episode as well. And it was, they also were very, not encouraged, but, it struck their heart as well to see the staff members that are also so emotional to have this performance going.
Yeah.
So, and this piece is close to my heart as well. Because, because the first tour I participated as a junior member was the Japanese version of this, which is Michi.
Yes.
In 2018. And because I was a junior member and I didn't know my left or my right, made lots of mistakes. But along with that, I was able to do a lot of new challenges.
Yeah.
Like try instruments that are not taiko related.
Okay, yeah.
Like the sona, the double reeded instrument, and a ragdoon, basically Tibetan tuba.
Yes,
in a sense.
yes.
Yeah.
Makes a very unique sound.
Yes.
Yeah.
And just being a part of making this song as well with Yuichiro was an experience in itself.
Right.
And yeah, this song definitely holds a lot of memories for me as well.
A lot of challenges, but a lot of good memories.
A lot of good memories, yes. All right. Once again, thank you very much. This was Okesa, the encore piece from One Earth Tour Legacy. Now, I guess we'll move on to the next segment, the Q&A. So we've gathered questions earlier on in the month for us to answer. So thank you very much for those who send us the questions.
Yes.
And I guess for the time being, we'll answer maybe one, maybe two questions today.
Thing. Should I start off by asking you a question?
Yeah, yes, please.
So we had a question. Tell us about your daily life as a Kodo member.
Daily life as a Kodo member. I guess we'll start off with the life on the island.
Yeah, so it's different on tour, I guess.
Yes.
So when you're at Kodo Village.
When we're at Kodo Village, so basically taiko is a career for us, right? So we start with warm-ups at 9 in the morning.
Very early?
Very early, yes.
Yeah.
And we warm up and loosen up. And at 9:30 we start hitting the drum, basically.
Right.
And we have a lunch break at 12:30, but we start at 2, and we usually end at 5.
So full day of taiko.
Yes. And once the group practice ends, we usually have enough time. When it used to be up until 10 when times were normal, but around 7. No, around 9 p.m. is the time for us to practice individually or with older members or younger members, and work on the feedbacks that we received during the group practice that we had from 9 to 5.
Okay. So it's basically mostly group practice during the day,
Yes.
and then individual practice
Exactly.
after that.
Yes. So if there's a tour going in preparation, then we would have, the tour practice that's happening in the practice hall from 9 to 5, and then, we would receive feedbacks from everyone, and then we would work on that once the group practice is over.
Right. So what happens on tour then?
Yes.
What's your daily life then?
In tour, again, the time kind of differs in the type of performance that we do. But a typical, like a theater type performance usually involves us entering the theater backstage at around maybe 9, maybe 10 in the morning.
Yep.
And we unload. The performing members unload the truck.
Yes, that's very interesting. I found that the members themselves, they do all the unloading, all the unpacking, and all the setting up. There's no loadies to be seen.
I mean, it's a very unique instrument, as most of the audience probably knows.
Sure.
So it requires a little bit of professional knowledge, I guess, in order to make sure that the instrument is in top condition before the performance starts.
So is that why the members...
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
That is why we do most of the unloading.
And it's very efficient too, by the way.
Yeah, once we start the tour, maybe it takes about an hour to unload the truck, but towards the end of the tour...
A truck full of drums.
Yeah, full of drums. But once the tour gets closer to the end, it usually, takes about maybe 30 minutes, 40 minutes. We find a way to make it as efficient as possible so we have more time to, eat lunch and relax and prepare ourselves for the actual performance.
Right, yep.
So yeah, backtracking a little bit. So we unload and we spike the stage. And once we're done with all the spiking, we usually have a group meeting where we discuss the time schedule of the day, like when the curtain rises and
doors
stuff like
open.
that. Yeah, when the doors
like that.
open. And yeah, we have we have a lunch break, and then we have some rehearsal time to check what the theater is like, how the acoustics is.
Okay, so that's when you check how
the theater works.
Yeah.
And then we do some individual routine stuff, and maybe warm-ups, like the vocal warm-ups. And then we get changed, doors open, and the curtains go up.
Wow, it's very different. Yeah.
It's a typical stage theater type performance.
I guess, in the future, we might call in some members as well and ask them how they spend their time as well.
That would be interesting,
and I think people might be interested on how a daily life as an apprentice was.
For sure.
Maybe the next episode or so. If people are curious, we might be able to touch on that.
So, I guess we'll move on to the next question then. The question is, what was your taiko experience in the US and Australia like?
It's interesting. I think the US and Australia and probably Japan are very different.
Very unique, yeah.
Yeah.
Very unique culture, I think.
What do you think is uniquely American?
Uniquely American.
In the taiko world, I guess.
I can dive into the history portion. But,
yes. That would take a long time.
That would take a while, yes. But to try and wrap it up concisely, taiko was an essential part of the Japanese American rights movement.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, because it was involved with the human rights movement, it really exploded throughout the country, and it just spread like wildfire, a good wildfire, across the state. And it happened to be the main style that spread in the States happened to be the naname style or the slant style.
Yes, that's
or
right.
the bon odori style, however you would call it. Mainly because we had the bon taiko in Buddhist temples, basically.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So we would use those drums that we had and perform.
So bon dance or bon festivals were like a core part of the Japanese American?
Yes, I believe so.
society?
Yes. To be completely honest, I am what they call a Shin Nisei, or a second generation Japanese American.
Yes.
That entered the state post World War So I'm not exactly the one that has experienced all that Japanese American experience firsthand. I mean, I did join. Yeah, I did join, say, for instance, San Jose Obon and it's the San Francisco Cherry Blossom Festival and those kind of events, but I wasn't there exactly, you know, when it was all building up.
Right.
But I know that the slant style was the premier style because San Francisco Taiko Dojo was also the one that brought in the Oedo Skeroku style from Japan. And yeah, that was the one that spread. So yeah, the predominant style in the States, I would say, is the slant style.
So that's a bit different to Australia because Australia, a lot of the taiko groups, I think most of them do katsugi style, which is the hanging drum style. I'm not sure why, but perhaps because it's a very light drum and you can own it at a reasonable price.
It's fairly reasonable compared to the nagado or the, you know, the actual carved out drum.
The Miya drum. So but I think a lot of movement, a lot of dancing along. I think that kind of vibe, the Australian vibe, suited the katsugi kind of style.
I see.
There's a lot of katsugi oke players in Australia. And so that's something different I realized after coming to Japan.
What is a typical Japanese style? Because, you know, I never really had taiko experience in Japan other than Kodo.
Yeah, well, there's so many regions in Japan.
Yeah.
They all have their different...
Very unique in every regions of Japan.
Yeah. The traditional styles, and then the more modern, I guess.
More modern, more
styles.
like, say, theatrical style.
Yeah.
For instance, you know, kabuki and no type background music and or folk festivals. What is my favorite style? Like, for instance, the piece Miyake of Kodo is based off of the festival in Miyake Island.
Yes.
Tokyo. And Yatai Bayashi is also a part of a festival piece or a music that we do at a festival in the Saitama prefecture. So those are definitely types of like the traditional things that really stand up for me.
Definitely, yeah. And also I think one difference I realized that the teams in Japan, maybe the younger teams, I guess, are very in sync.
Very in sync,
very in sync compared to, say, Australia. I think we do more solos.
Yeah.
And each person is very individual in their way of drumming. So I thought that was an interesting difference.
That is true. I remember when I was trying to compose a piece when I was a university student, I stumbled upon the junior competition videos on YouTube where these teenagers would be performing, the teams would be performing for a competition basically in Japan, and I was mesmerized by this in syncness and the energy that they had.
I like the shouting and each movement was all in sync.
All in sync, yeah.
It's very Japanese, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It wasn't something that I saw in the States as well, for sure. But I remember I was trying to kind of not steal but borrow ideas from the phrases that they would play. Yeah, and I remember, I guess that could be a very big difference from the States and Japan.
I would be interesting to ask those who are listening what you think, like your country style is, or what the difference you think is between, you know, what you've experienced.
Now that taiko is all over the world now,
yeah, like very global.
I wonder what kind of style that, say, you know, predominant in Brazil or predominant in Spain.
Yeah. It would be interesting to hear about that.
Oh, yeah.
Please leave it in comments.
Yes.
So you mentioned in your introduction that you studied food science.
Yes.
That's quite interesting. It's very different to taiko. So why did you pick taiko then?
So when I joined the collegiate taiko team in my college, in my university, I was able to interact with a bunch of the key members of the taiko community.
Okay. You
And
mentioned Yui.
Yes, like I
before.
mentioned earlier, Yui was the one that officially pulled me into Kodo, but I was able to interact with, for instance, ex-Kodo members like Kaoru
Ah, yes.
and other professional members like Shoji
Yes.
and San Jose Taiko and a bunch of Taiko members. And interacting with them, I just wanted to be more involved with the taiko community, and I thought that there is no better place than Kodo to really hone my skills,
Right.
and the apprentice program was very appealing in the sense that we don't learn just about taiko, we learn
Right.
about the farming and the thing that happens behind the taiko, if that makes sense.
Yes.
The reason
The
why we
lifestyle.
play the taiko,
Yeah.
in Japan. And also Japanese tea ceremonies and no theater and haiku and
A lot
ceramics. Just a lot of things that may seemingly not be involved with taiko, but learning these things really hones you as a individual, as a human being,
Right. To actually grow as an individual thinking as well.
which in the apprentice center is valued the most. This is something that I haven't really realized when I was an apprentice, but honing skills is important, but not as important as honing the individual skill sets or like the human beingness
Yeah.
of an individual.
Right. That's interesting.
Yeah, because we have all the time in the world once we become an official member
True.
to practice, because that's our job. But the apprentice program was an opportunity to really look into yourself and
Okay.
reevaluate yourself and think about the things that you want to do as a Kodo player.
Right.
Yeah, and I wish I knew that when I was an apprentice. Like, I never really took that advice to heart because I was so caught up with all these tasks that I have in front of me. And
Every day is just such a challenge, isn't it?
there was a lot of things to cover.
Yeah.
And yeah, because I had so many tasks in front of me, I kind of lost track of that ultimate goal to perform for the taiko community in the United States or around the world.
Right.
So now that I am a member, I don't want the apprentices to, make not necessarily a mistake, but the same experience I did.
Not to forget.
Yeah, not to
Why they
forget
came.
that initial goal that they decided to join the apprentice center for, and to not get too caught up with all these problems that you have in front of you.
Yeah. I think we can talk about the Apprentice Center for a whole episode.
Yeah, for sure.
But unfortunately, we've kind of run out of time for this episode.
For this episode,
Yeah. So we hope everyone enjoyed the session as much as we did. It went very quickly.
Very quickly, yes.
But hopefully we can do more episodes,
in the future, yes.
even though it's irregular.
Regular, yeah. But
Yeah.
once again, I said this in the opening,
Yes.
but if you have any questions or comments, any feedbacks for us, please fill out the questionnaire form that we have attached to this link, so we can attack those when we film our next episode.
And we do want to mention also that we are very, very grateful for the amazing, warm support that we have been receiving over the past year, especially. And that has allowed us to continue our activities. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
Thank you very much. Yes. We can't do this job without an audience.
Yes, for sure.
So thank you very much.
We hope everyone is staying healthy and staying safe.
Take care.
Take
Yes.
care.
And we will see you in the next episode.
Bye.